I want to give you guys some more advice. So I'm just vibing and flowing. So as you are maneuvering in your ministry, your calling, what God has backed, what he said he's going to do for you, let me give you some advice too. Let me tell you some of the ways he's going to attack you. The number one way he's going to attack you is with your mouth. It could be your voice. It could be your pronunciation. You could have a lisp. You could have an issue with stuttering. When I started talking about my testimony, because God told me that the devil is after my testimony with my health. When I started talking about my testimony, I started having issues with dental. I had 2 teeth growing in the roof of my mouth. And then I had teeth growing at the bottom of I had just teeth growing in weird spots. I had to get 4 teeth removed and I had to replace 6 teeth. The extra teeth destroyed my normal teeth. So I had to remove all these teeth on the side of my mouth. That didn't start happening until I started telling my testimony. So I always tell people, these are some of don't wait until he attacks you. You start speaking over this stuff now. Don't take any attack personal. The devil always confirms. He always confirms it. So you can be vibing with God and God's like, you know what? I'm going to back you as a prophet. The devil's he comes immediately to steal that. He comes immediately to challenge that. So I always tell girls, especially if you are using your voice, which 99.9% of us use our voice for the things of God. He's going to attack that. You start talking about your testimony. You're talking about how God breaks the rules. He's coming after that. So that's something. Also, to your thyroid. I try to take supplements and stuff that support a healthy thyroid. There's a young girl who kind of started doing ministry stuff and her thyroid is enlarged. He attacks your voice. I remember Fantasia said that she developed tumors on her vocal cords. He's always coming after the very thing that God is going to use. So I can always tell and identify people who God uses. I can tell by what they're attacked with. Kanye West. What did he try to attack with Kanye? His jaw, his mouth, right after he got signed. 50 Cent, his mouth. He got shot in the mouth. People who have attacks of their mouth is because God is on them. So that's something to look out for. Pay attention to the areas or an area of your life that has had struggle or difficulty with. The very area that you struggled in, I believe he attacks you in, that's the area you're going to dominate in. Sometimes what I do to piss the devil off, the areas that I struggled in or was vulnerable in, the hospital, my mortgage, stuff like that. Those are the very areas that I use as sewing centers. Building my career, I always sew into realtors. I do this on purpose because these are the areas that he tried to attack me in. So just start to, as you and God vibe, don't take attacks personal. There's a difference between an attack and there's a difference between a test. When you tell God yes and you guys are vibing, there's going to be an immediate process. If you are dealing with the masses, God is going to put you through a series of tests to make sure that, how should I say this? It's almost like you have to be completely broken. Your ideals, your ideology, everything that you think that you believe has to be tested because God wants to just make sure that you're riding with him. God knows all and God is omnipresent, but he did tell Abraham when he told Abraham to kill his son, God said, I wanted to know. God has to know for sure that we are riding with him. So he'll do a series of tests. Do not take the test personal. The tests are not going to take you out. And let me tell you something about the Lord too. Sometimes this is what the Lord did to me. The Lord kind of threw me in a blender. The Lord qualified me for something I wasn't even thinking about. This whole time I thought this whole health thing was to birth kids. I was like, oh, the devil's after my kids. It was my qualification process to reach the masses. He used that as a way to build spiritual stamina. So When I'm connecting with the masses, I don't flinch. I don't fold. People contact me with all kind of health reports. I don't never panic or have a panic attack or I wonder how the Lord's going to do it. I immediately start praying and copying a plea and, speaking over it. So don't find it strange. Don't take it personal. Do not take betrayal personal. Betrayal is actually good. When you're speaking into your vision, you're speaking to what you want to do, let it all hit the fan. People are going to come up against you. People are going to steal from you. People are going to betray you. People are going to try to discredit you, mock you, talk about you. Let them do it. What it does is it provokes new strength on the inside of you. You depend on God in a deep way. Betrayal only comes when it's from somebody that you ride with. Like, don't take it personal. Do not allow this to make you bitter. Don't allow the devil to play in your face and be with you. People are going to do what they do. We're not doing this for the people. We're doing this because of God. God wants to reach the people. So we don't do this for the love of the people. We do this for God. So we're not going to get caught up in who steals, who does this, who mocks, who copies. Do not be beefing with other God girlies. Please do not do it. Do not waste your time. You want to be able to grow and rank with God. You don't want the Lord to be like, I can't really use you like that because you done cuss this pastor out. You don't want that kind of vibe. You don't ever want to step out on your own ideals. And another advice I would give you, do not be legalistic. The devil is legalistic. God is not. You can cop a plea with God. God is merciful. This whole vibe, like people have been saying, God's judgment because of the fires, God's judgment. And I'm thinking, y'all don't really know God for real. Baby, I'll take God's judgment any day over man's judgment. Man always wants to make you pay. They always want to remind you of yesterday. They want to keep you where they met you. Child, God is merciful. You can cop a plea with the Lord. That's why Jonah was feeling some type of way with them people that God sent judgment on, and then he changed his mind. You want God to be able to change his mind about a situation. But that would be my advice. When you tell God yes, he's going to qualify you. So don't take it personal that if you tell God yes and you get a diagnosis, or you tell God yes and you file bankruptcy, or you lose all your friends, or you lose all your hair, or you lose your teeth. Do not put your faith in things. Do not quantify who you are to God based on what's going around you. God has to kind of build, and I'm going to say this. This is my new vibe. I say he's going to build this beast on the inside of you. Now, I told the Lord this. I said, I just feel that there's this beast birthing on the inside of me. I cannot describe it. I really don't want to call it a beast because when I think of a beast, I think of the devil. And the Lord, I said, I feel like there's this holy beast being birthed. There's a resilience that I have. There's a relentless that I have. I don't take no personal. I don't take no, get out my face. I don't take any of this stuff personal. There is something that was birthed on the inside of me when I went through my health journey. I don't care what is thrown in front of me. There's a holy beast on the inside of you. Because I asked God, I was like, what's a Christian way of saying there's a beast in me? God said, that's a lion. He said, you're a lioness. There's a lioness on the inside of you. There's a beast, a holy beast that's not moved by limitations, logic, statistics, odds, what other people are doing. We don't go by what our circumstances are. We don't go by what the trends are. We don't go by any of that. We go by what God is doing, and we're just making space for it. But be confident in it. Don't take anything personal. Don't take it personal if people don't support it. Don't even take it personal when people copy. God told me there's two areas the devil's going to try to mess with me with. One, people copy. They already do it. Take my stuff. They take my stuff and they try to monetize it, or they take my stuff and try to reword it or discredit it. Let them do it. Let God be God. One thing about the Lord is that he deals with people how you want to deal with people. Do not respond, retaliate. Even if somebody calls you out by name, disrespect you, describe you to a T, let them do it. Let them mock. Let them copy. Get used to betrayal. Get used to people turning on you. Get used to, it's just certain things, like it stings, but you should be you have God talking to you every day and encountering you. Like, we're not going to be bogged down by little. And see, that's what the devil wants you to do. He uses people. People gonna go, people gonna leave, people gonna change, people gonna switch up, this is what people do. We don't do it for them. We do it because of God. We do it because of God. You're just giving people an opportunity. You're just giving God. You're not even giving people an opportunity. You're giving God an opportunity to win them. And we're not the measuring stick. We're not the standard. And, for instance, like one of my homegirls, I was talking to her to like 3 a.m. in the morning. God was telling me all this stuff. Like, she doesn't need to do this. She doesn't need to do that. I was on the phone with her until 3 a.m. until God came to me and said, do you want me to tell her? Or do you want to tell her? I got her off the phone so quick. I said, I'm going to let you tell them. I don't tell people what they should do. I just give God an opportunity to encounter them, because only God can show you who you are. So that would be my advice. And one of the things I do, because I'm attacked a lot, one of the things I do that kind of gets the devil off my back, when things don't go your way, things don't go how you imagine. Let's just say you tell God, hey, Lord, I want to be a prophet. He'd be like, oh, word? Cool. And you get diagnosed the next day. Or, hey, God, I want to be able to maneuver like Benny Hinn. Cool. Next thing you know, you lose your feet. Whatever happens to you after you accept it, do not take it personal, and lift your hands in the air and say, I'm willing to pay the price. I'm willing to pay the price for this. With building this, I took on a project to help build this. And the moment I took this project on, I immediately got sick. That's another reason. That's another way you can know that you're right on course, because he attacks you every step of the way. I got so sick. And this is the thing that was crazy. I was battling with 2 different things at the same time. I was so pissed. I had like a bad cold, and he was trying to mess with me in other areas. This issues that I was having, it took like a week. It actually took 18 days to leave my body. That's the longest I've ever had. Usually my stuff is like in and out. It'll be like a day or 2 and I'm back to normal. This took 18 days. And it was because I was working on a project that was aligned with Teeny Church. He came after me. He came for blood for me for 18 days. And I was frustrated. And I was getting to the point where you get frustrated, you start crying. And I said, I'm willing to pay the price. If this is what the price has to be to birth this, I'm willing to pay. Listen up, devil. I'm willing to pay the price. You're going to see me build this. So I don't care what you put in my way, what false symptoms you try to put on me. This is getting built. And just know, too, that God is just looking for somebody to say yes. God is looking for somebody that's going to take the risk. So God is looking for somebody that's going to put their hand to the plow to build it. One of the things God told me, he said, I'm purposely having you build it this way so that you don't just give it away to somebody. You know the price to build this, to bring each kid in. You're paying the price to do it. So just have those awareness. And my other advice, out of all of this stuff I shared, I heavily encourage spiritual covering. Tell God to tell you, who do you want me covered by? Before I birthed this, God had already had me sowing into the bishop that he wants to be the covering for this. I had no idea I was going to be launching this or even putting this together. You want to have spiritual covering because you're going to have a more intense attack. It's really not an individual attack. He's going to be attacking you on a bigger level because of the people that God is going to be able to impact through you. So you just want to have the spiritual covering, and you want God to select it for you. Don't select the covering you think you should have. You have God select who is to cover you. Have somebody that can pour into you. You also want spiritual covering because when you have people pulling on you and you are doing this supernatural experience with God, you need somebody to build you up. You need somebody to go to that can just pour into you, build you up. Because sometimes when you're building something, you could be so close to something that you miss it. So you need somebody that's committed to praying, giving you advice, pouring into you, encouraging you. And That would be my advice. Another thing too, I really thought I was going to do another type of video, but this is just hilarious. As you are building this with God, God's going to give you your team. Let God choose the people. God came to me because I was just like, Lord, are you sure these are my people? Lord, the Lord said, if you think I'm sending you the spiritually advanced, you are a fool, girl. Typically, when God selects your team and he selects the people that he wants to be a part of it, the people usually they're not who you thought it was going to be. I'm not building something of friends. I'm building the people who God told me. And if people don't want to be a part of the vision, it's fine. The vision is still going to get going on. It doesn't mean that their life is over. It's just we're getting this thing accomplished with or without you. God always provides the provision. God will provide you people. Just keep moving and don't take nothing personal. That would be my advice. When God selects your spiritual covering, let me tell you something. I want to give you this advice for your spiritual covering for your ministry. And I also want to give you this advice for the churches that you attend. I always tell people, this is the new thing. This is the new revelation I got, that be careful. Okay, God's going to tell you who to vibe with, but be careful who the people that you kind of say you're going to vibe with. Because whatever wars with the pastor is going to try to war with you. So anytime God calls you to go to a church, or God calls you to work closely with a pastor, or God calls you, to have this person be your spiritual covering, pay attention to what they war with. Pay attention to the ways that they are attacked, because that is going to be one of the devil's strategy. It kind of starts from the head and it goes the top down. So I remember one time I was at a church service, and I remember saying, I was like, I don't ever want to work in ministry like that. Like, give me something that is easy and in the bag, don't nobody know me, because I noticed that every woman that was close, like on the pastor's team or whatever, like really closely assisted the pastor, every single one of them, when the pastor and stuff was praying, all of them had health issues. Pay attention to what they war with. And there's some pastors who are like super, super spiritually advanced. God is going to put you on their level. Okay, I don't want to say he's going to put you on their level, but he's going to put you like on the same spiritual vibe that they're on. Not because of who they are and what they're doing, because the devil is going to attack you on that level. So you have to be spiritually advanced so that you can spiritually defend what he's called you to. So I pay attention to that. The pastors that he has me around, I pay attention. I don't look for their tea. I just look at their testimonies. I look at the stuff they struggle with. I look at the way the devil attacks them. I look what comes after them. God, and then even because you can't see stuff surface based, God will even tell me, these are the ways he's going to try to attack you. One of my mentors, what's on him attacks property. So like I was doing all this stuff, went to this stuff, came home, my car didn't want to work, lost this. I'm like, I said, the devil don't be attacking my property like that. That's how he attacks him, with property. So just be careful, and just pay attention to patterns. When you start seeing patterns, if you're somebody that you get a new car because you keep into car accidents, find out what's causing that. What's the pattern with that? Pay attention to what they wore with. Some pastors, based on the mantles that are imparted, they're either attacked with their health or the devil attacks their kids. Just pay attention to that and have a sensitivity towards it and have grace, and know that this is an intentional attack from the pit of hell. And when you connect, or when they cover you, just know that what tries to war with them is going to try to war with you. And that could be why you have to be under their leadership, because they'll kind of teach you how to be, spiritually in tuned and strong. God, I remember when I was building this, God came to me because I had my board, but I remember God came to me. He said, you're going to immediately be able to identify who is going to be on your team. And I'm like, all right, cool, Lord, thank you. He said, I'm going to mark them. He said, each person that works close with you on this project or this ministry, he said, they either are going to have already overcame a major illness, or it's going to be an illness or an injury. He said, that's how you're going to know. He said, because that is the qualification process you went through. That's the price I paid. I paid a cost for this to carry. I don't, the Lord just walk up in my house. There was a cost for the closeness. So at first I was like, because there's some people God was telling me, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to vibe with this person. And then I'm like, I don't want to see them go through no hell. And I remember, you know, one of the women who is a part of it, she called me. She was like, she was helping me with my projects. And like, she ended up in the ER. She was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. She was hospitalized. Somebody else had emergency surgery. Another person was on team, got into a terrible boat accident. He was like, after I agreed to this mess, he said, nothing bad ever happens to me. So it's not on me. It's just, there is a cost that I pay for this. And God wants to make sure that if you're invested in this, like, this is a price that was paid, because it's serious. This is not something I just drew in my backyard. This is something that God encountered me with. So I say all that to say that whoever your team members are, ask God, how can I easily identify who is a part of my team? How do I know? And then sometimes you may not know. God may put you through a season of betrayal. You may be betrayed for the first 10, 15 years of building a ministry. You may be betrayed. You may be sick. Flow with it. Don't take it personal. And I will say, like, I tell people this all the time. There's reward in suffering in the name of God. Do not take anything personal. Do not carry the stigma of whatever happens to you. You ride with God in it, and you'll see God's sovereignty in it. One of the medications, I was Googling one of the medications I used to take. I did not know the medication I used to take. I was on it for 2 years. God told me to get off that drug. But that medication, women lost their hair on it. And I was so shocked when I was reading the reviews on it, because I'm on the different meds. I was like, what's so wild? My hair got 3 times thicker while I was on the medication. God does stuff to remind you that he's with you. And I have like a lot of health groups that I'm in. And some of the girls have the same issues as me. And they're like, how the heck does that medicine work for you? It don't work for me. And I have X, Y, and Z, and this happens to me. Baby, it works. It's God backing me. So, don't give yourself a break. Go through grace. When you ride with God and you say yes, just know it's a qualification period. And God is going to determine what he's going to use to qualify you with you. Embrace it. It's worth it. I've walked through stuff I never thought I was going to be able to walk into, because I just released, I let go. And I'm like, it's one of the best things that has ever happened to me. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. Let me talk to my prophet girlies. Listen to me. Listen to me. As a prophet is not somebody that gives out warnings and gives out doom and gloom. A prophet is not somebody that talks about circumstances or prepare for this, prepare for that. That's not a prophet. A prophet is somebody that sees a situation and they can actually alter it in the realms of the spirit. God gives you access to the spiritual realm because you're actually able to stand in the gap and change the outcome. That's the role of a prophet. A prophet changes law. A prophet can tap in and be like, oh, what's going on with the politics? Okay, cool. Let me go talk to the Lord real quick. A prophet can change the outcome. That's why people run to prophets, because prophets, you can be on your deathbed and a prophet will override it. God, how should I say this? You cannot represent a God you don't know. I'm not talking about what you learned about. I'm talking about God showing up in your house. You cannot represent a God you haven't encountered. Prophets change outcomes. Prophets prophets will actually go on God on your behalf. It's almost, to me, I feel like the way God showed it to me with prophets is like he gives them authorization to do things on his behalf. So that's why we need prophets. I will say this. This is what the Lord told me with prophets. That's why I tell people, be careful what you try to, just be careful. It's not all cute. There's a closeness that I have with God. And I remember God told me, he said, people don't walk this close with me because it's not Gucci, Prada, Gucci, and rainbows. There's stuff God tell me he can't move on. There's stuff I go to God about. I'm praying for somebody right now, don't know God. He don't want nothing to learn about God. And I'm like, Lord, we got to find a way to override this. I refuse. There's stuff that God will tell me that I see, and he'll be like, I can't move on that. There's a closeness that I have that is trippy. But I will say this, when it comes to prophets, this is what the Lord told me. He said, for prophets, a prophet, for God to release that, you have to almost be willing to die for it. You have either had a near-death experience. You have to, God, every prophet that I've listened to that's been encountered by God, their story was, I died and came back. Like, that is how God is moving in that now. Because, the reason why the price is so high and we have to go through these things is the more pain you go through, the more potency you have in the spiritual realm. And that's what God told me. He said, you have to be willing to risk your life for this. And I'm not talking about you about to jump off a bridge. I'm talking about you're like, you know what the doctor say? I'm willing to put the Lord to the test and see what the outcome going to be. For God to trust you like that, you got to be able to trust him with your life and not like talk is cheap. Like, oh, I trust you with my life, Lord. It's going to be put to the test. That's all I'm saying. So be careful what you ask for, because there is a qualification process for it. There is. And I know for sure for prophets, any type of prophet, priestly calling, you have direct access to God. God will show you his inner courts. God will show you the different realms of the spirit. That does not come cheap. Most people either had to fight a major illness. And the thing that's funny, when you're going through these tests, God doesn't really tell you why you're going through it. You could be going through something and you make it on the other side and you're surprised you survive like me. And the Lord will come to you 5 years later and say, oh, child, I just did that because I wanted to give you this kind of access. What? Child, I thought I was on my way to see you. So that's all I want to say. That's my advice. Be flowy, be cute. Keep me posted. Vibe with me. Share with me your ministry ideas. I'm going to be keeping up with you guys, praying with you guys. If you want to tap in with some of my mentors, I have a really great mentor. He's the truth. I'm trying to tell you, child. They done. I feel like, I ain't going to share it. If you want to connect with me on my mentors of like different people who I connected with, let me know. The Lord has opened up this whole pastor door. But yeah, that's my last minute advice.